Thank you everyone for joining us again to our Facebook page and also our San Diego County Bar Association's website. My name is Elizabeth Sorensen. I'm with the San Diego County Bar Association, and we are here again today to start our 2021 educational videos where we change the topic and we have a attorney speaker answer some of the most common questions. So I'll pass it on to Michelle for introductions, and then we'll dive into the first question.
Hi, thank you for joining. My name is Michelle Chavez. I'm the Director of Public Services at the San Diego County Bar, and I'm proud to introduce Mr. Stuart Mellman, who will be our attorney that will speak about what the business owner's rights are when the public is harassing them or causing them to lose clientele and everything. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Mr. Mellman.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Attorney Stuart Mellman. I'm one of the attorneys that work with the Bar Association, part of the referral panel, and I do a lot of restraining orders, among other matters, and I have some experience with these types of scenarios that we're going to be talking about today.
So let's start out with the first question that we have. What are my rights as a business owner when members of the public cause a civil disturbance in front of my business? You know, and how do I get rid of them? What do I do?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And anytime there's going to be a disturbance, there's a wide range of disturbances. It could be a group of people or one individual who's maybe intoxicated and creating a scene, or just a wide spectrum of problems. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you're safe, of course, and you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be injured or harmed. And then the next thing you may want to do is call the police, so that way you can have them come and make an incident report. And if a crime is going on, the police can apprehend the person. What I would strongly recommend, though, is having good video surveillance in place, whether it's installed cameras or taking video on your phone, because you don't, as a business owner, you don't want to find yourself in a he said, she said situation. So if you have video to corroborate what exactly is transpiring at your business that is causing this disturbance, you want to have as much video as possible to bolster your case. And if it seems to be a recurrent problem and you believe that this isn't going to be a one-off issue, that's where we can talk about filing a civil harassment restraining order to prevent the person from coming within a certain distance from the business. And that's a very powerful tool that law enforcement would be able to enforce to prevent this person from coming to the business.
Okay, great, thank you.
So the second question is, I believe, like maybe a little bit more specific to the first, but what should I do if a person is preventing clientele to enter the actual business and, you know, with threats or such thing? Obviously calling the police, but is there anything else that I could do legally?
One thing you could do, depending on the threats and what's going on, is you could ask the police for what's called an emergency protective order, which is essentially a restraining order that the police can issue right then and there. The police would call up a judge, get the order for an emergency protective order, and get the person removed from the property based on the severity of the threats that are ongoing. So that is a solution where you could get some immediate relief, but just like the prior question, you want to make sure that you're in a safe, secure situation, have your documentation, call the police, don't put your employees or other people in any danger, and see if you can talk with the police to getting an emergency protective order before irreparable damage and harm occurs.
And how long is that protective order? How long does that last? Is that just for a day, a week?
So an emergency protective order, it's designed to last for a period of time to allow you to get a civil harassment restraining order. So it's not a permanent solution. It would be in place for a week or two, which would be more than a sufficient amount of time to go to the courthouse or hire an attorney to assist and get the formal restraining order.
Okay, so kind of just to flip it to the other side of what happens if someone outside my business is disturbing it and they assault me, or they start spray painting my business or breaking windows, whatever it could be, at that time, I know I would call the police. Is there criminal charges, or what can I do? I know I probably have to do something civilly, but what about criminally?
Yeah,
What
so
would
if
you
they're
do?
vandalizing your property as a business owner, you would definitely want to call the police, make a report, try and get the person arrested. But that would be considered a crime if they're destroying your property or vandalizing it, and the person would be held accountable. You could also sue them civilly for damages, get the restraining order against them to prevent this from happening again, but they definitely would be subject to criminal and civil liability.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. I know there's two. It all depends on what they're doing. If they're just standing out there, maybe they're mentally ill and they have nowhere to go. I know that, they're not doing it. They're not causing a crime, but they're preventing people from wanting to go in. So I guess that's more of the restraining order.
Yeah, it may also be a violation of a local municipal ordinance at the city level. So while it may not be something you would think of as a traditional misdemeanor crime, it could definitely still be a violation of a local ordinance that could be enforced by the city police.
Okay, great. Thank you for that info.
And so when you request the emergency order, is that effective like immediately, or how do you enforce that? Like you call the police and are they the ones that give the order, or how does that work?
That's correct. So if there's a real emergency going on where someone has been assaulted and battered and there's really a serious issue, the
Hmm.
police are going to make a judgment call if an emergency protective order is necessary, and you would get that on the spot. Now,
Okay.
typically, EPOs are not very common. It truly has to be a very bad situation that's unfolding. But what is common is getting a temporary restraining order. So, for example, if a client were to contact me early in the day, something's going on, or even the early afternoon, if we file, the cutoff is 3 p.m. at the civil business office. So as long as a restraining order you're in the business office no later than 3 p.m., you can get your temporary restraining order the same day. The judge will make a decision right then and there. You may have to wait a few hours, but the judge will make a decision that day whether to grant you a temporary restraining order or not.
Okay.
Okay, so for, layperson, what is a restraining order, a civil restraining order or civil harassment order? And, can you do it on your own, or do you need to hire an attorney?
Okay, so a civil harassment restraining order, sometimes it's referred to as a CHRO as well. It is designed to restrain someone from carrying out threats of violence or actual violence. So if a person has committed violence, threats of violence, or engaged in a course of conduct that seriously alarms, annoys, or harasses someone, the restraining order is designed to prevent that from continuing to happen, and it does a few things. The first component is a stay away order. So typically the court would order this individual that they would have to remain at least 100 yards away from your business and your home. So we have that, and then we have the personal conduct orders, which means no communication directly or indirectly. That could be through phone, email, through a third party that would harass or annoy the business owner and or the business owner's employees. So it primarily does those two things. It's a combination of the conduct orders for no contact and a stay away order. And what's nice with the restraining order is you don't have to have an attorney to file it with you. On the court website, the San Diego court website, they have a packet that you can download that has all the forms in one place, and it includes instructions. So anyone can go on the court website, download those forms, fill it out, take it to the courthouse. What I tell my clients is that you don't have to have an attorney, but if you do have an attorney, it will greatly increase the probability of your hearing going well and getting that temporary restraining order. And that's really important, because if you're in a situation where you find yourself that you need a temporary restraining order, if it's not done right, you're not going to get the protection that you need, and you're going to be left with nothing. So you only have one opportunity, that initial opportunity to get the temporary restraining order. So if you're in that dire situation, I recommend doing whatever you can to maximize the probability of it going well.
Okay, and is there a fee to file the restraining order at the court?
So normally there would be, however, with most civil harassment restraining orders, if they're based on violence, threats of violence, or stalking, which it sounds like a lot of these business owners have an issue, it could perhaps be construed as stalking, with people going in front of the business, remaining there, scoping it out, interfering with customers. In a sense, they are stalking the business owner. So if it falls under one of those categories, the filing fee is waived. The filing fee is normally $435 for a civil harassment case. But in the vast majority of cases, given the conduct that's occurring, there's an option for the court to waive the fee.
Oh, good to know.
There's also if a person qualifies financially for a fee waiver, that's another avenue that the court may use to avoid the fee.
Okay, that's good to know, because I don't think people realize there is a fee to do all of this at the court, but it's good to know that it could be waived, especially if you're a business owner and you're struggling during these times. You know, $435 is a lot to have to put out.
Yeah, in practically every case it is waived, so it's very uncommon for it to be enforced, but there technically is a fee, it's just usually not enforced.
Okay, great. All right.
And then is there like a general criteria that needs to be met in order for you to, for your restraining order to be granted?
Yeah, so the general criteria for civil harassment would be violence, threats of violence, or engaging in a course of conduct, which typically means more than one incident. Now, you can have multiple incidents within a short period of time. It doesn't have to be over different days or weeks, but engaging in conduct that seriously annoys, alarms, harasses the business owner. So that is the general criteria, and we would explain in the court, or if you're filing it by yourself, the business owner would explain on what date, what happened, and how it impacted the business owner. And then the business owner would also go into detail if there were prior incidents involving the same person.
Okay, so let's say, I don't know if this file is under the criteria, but I'm sure this is a question that a lot of business owners face is, there is a huge homeless population downtown San Diego. And let's say, a person parks all their stuff in the business entryway and prevents, maybe they urinate or, they leave their trash there. Is that considered criteria to get a restraining order?
That's a very unique situation. So I would have to do a little research on that one.
Okay.
I would have to.
But let's say I'm the business owner and I say, you know what, you need to move your stuff, and then you start arguing with me, and maybe threatening me. Then that may qualify.
Yeah, if it evolves with those facts where you're asking someone to, hey, you're interfering with my business. My customers can't get through because all your property's here, or you urinated. And that involves into a confrontation where now there's threats of violence.
Okay.
Now we're more of meeting the criteria for a restraining order, as opposed to before. That is conduct that would seriously annoy someone and could be considered harassment, but it's less of a clear-cut case if the judge is going to be willing to classify that as a restrainable conduct. Because a restraining order, it is a very serious thing to have on someone's record.
Right.
So the judges don't want to issue them too freely. It needs to be it needs to meet the criteria.
Okay, but like, let's say I'm a person and I like the front of your building, and I'm going to park out here every single day, and every single day I'm not going to harass you, but I'm not going to threaten you, but you're going to have to shush me away every day, and it's becoming an ongoing problem. Is there anything that can be done in that instance?
I would definitely call the police and see if their presence is a violation of any local or city ordinances and rules.
Okay.
There might be a way to enforce it through that avenue. I would also, it would probably be worth trying to file a civil harassment restraining order and explaining it, how it's impacting the business, and putting all the facts there as thorough as possible so a judge can understand from the business owner's perspective how this course of conduct is seriously annoying and harassing to the business owner. And I would file that and see, I would suggest doing that and seeing if the judge agrees. Because
Okay.
again, it could go either way.
Okay, great.
Yeah, in my opinion, it would definitely be worth trying. It's hard to say if a judge is going to see it the same way as the business owner, but it definitely, you could make a good faith argument that it would fit the criteria under the harassing behavior.
Okay, great. Good to know.
So moving on to, you know, someone or business owner who already filed a restraining order. Most likely, you know, for people that are harassing their businesses, they're not known people, you know, like friends or family. So how does someone actually serve that person with a restraining order, or is it even valid? What if I don't have, you know, any contact information on the person? Can it go forth legally?
Yeah, so that will pose a little bit of a challenge. However, I have seen a number of restraining orders where you may not know their full name or their contact information. So you put what you do have. And I've seen cases where that information is not known. The restraining order will simply put John Doe or Jane Doe, and you're allowed to proceed that way. And with a lot of these cases, it sounds like the perpetrator of the harassment is going to keep coming back. So when they come back to the business, that would be an opportunity to get the person served. And anyone besides the person asking for a restraining order who's an adult over 18 can serve a copy of the restraining order.
Oh, okay. So
And
if
they
they
would,
keep coming back and back, you've got a good opportunity to serve them. And what if they don't do anything about it? Then what?
if
You can call the
the,
police and they keep coming back?
yeah, so if the court grants you a temporary restraining order and the person has been properly served, if there's violations of the restraining order, you want to call the police, inform them of the violations, and that you have the restraining order. They'll be able to look it up in their law enforcement database, confirm that the restraining order is in place, and they will remove the person, and they could be subject to criminal or other penalties and liabilities for violating the restraining order. And it will also make it much easier in that case to then get a permanent restraining order, because initially you only have a temporary one. So if the temporary is violated, the court's going to be inclined to grant you a permanent restraining order for a much longer period of time.
So let's talk about the temporary restraining order and then a permanent restraining order. So obviously temporary is your first thing that you get. How long does that normally last, that restraining order? Or is it vary?
So typically it lasts for up to 3 weeks, and that's because that's when you have your court date. And when you file the restraining order, the court decides whether to give you a temporary one or not. And if they give you the temporary, it's until your court date. At the court date, which is typically 2 to 3 weeks later, the court then hears all the evidence, hears from the restrained party as well, and decides whether a permanent restraining order should be issued or if the temporary should be dissolved if they previously granted one. And a permanent restraining order can last for up to 5 years. Now, prior to it expiring, you can file to renew it for another period of time.
Okay.
But the
Okay.
initial maximum period is 5 years.
Okay. And how hard is it to get a permanent restraining order in these, well, maybe in these types of instances that are not like relationship based?
Yes, so there's a few different types. As you mentioned, relationship-based would be typically a domestic violence restraining order due to the relation. With civil harassment, it's going to be a person who's not a relative or in a dating relationship with. Those types of restraining orders do have a higher burden of proof. So instead of the lowest level, which is a preponderance of the evidence, it's a clear and convincing standard. So it's between a criminal case and a regular civil case in terms of what a person needs to show to convince the court that they have been the victim of civil harassment. So if you think about it, you need pretty good evidence to show the court, this is what's been going on, this is how it's impacted me, and one good way to do that is going to be through video evidence.
Video, okay. I think that's good to know. Or what about pictures, photos?
Pictures are good as well. If you have any third-party witnesses, that's also incredibly helpful because, again, you don't want to be in a situation in court where it's just a he said, she said. So if you have the video, pictures, and witnesses, that's going to allow you to increase the probability of prevailing on your restraining order.
Okay, great. That's good information. So what happens if I'm a business owner and I hire an attorney and I don't get the temporary restraining order? What can I do? Is it just keep collecting data and then filing for another one? How can I prevent further harassment? Obviously I don't want to take it into my own hands, but I just don't want these person or groups or whatever and affecting my business, my day-to-day business.
Yeah, so if the temporary restraining order isn't given, you'll still have your court date 2 to 3 weeks later to show the court why you do need that permanent restraining order and present all your evidence. So if you happen to hire an attorney, we can help you assemble all the evidence and present it in the light most favorable to your case. A lot of the times, if someone does it on their own, they may have very good evidence, but they're either not good at explaining their case, maybe they're not good at talking in court, or they don't know how to get over objections or admit the evidence in court. So when you do have that restraining order hearing, that's an opportunity to now show your evidence and convince the court that you need it. Some other ideas, if the restraining order avenue doesn't work out, is perhaps a business owner could look into getting more security at their property to help with the loitering issues or other individuals who are creating a problem for the business owner, having good surveillance that might act as a deterrent against any harassers, and just being diligent and aware of your surroundings.
Okay, that's great information. And then I guess just one final question is, and I think you kind of already touched on it, when is a good time to hire an attorney for this? Maybe it happens 1, 2 times, and then I'm like on my 5th time and I'm like, you know what? This is getting to be a real nuisance.
Yeah.
And what should you have prepared?
Yeah. So with these cases, typically you're calling an attorney when there's a major problem. So the situation has spiraled out of control and it's no longer tolerable. You don't feel safe. Maybe they've threatened you or actually harmed you. So the earlier the better, because you don't want to wait till it's already too late where you've been injured or harmed or your business is really suffering. So I would say when you suspect that there's a real problem going on, that's an appropriate time to take action. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to wait too long and sit on your claim. So if something's happened and 2 months go by and then you say, you know what, I still think I need the restraining order, that's not going to be such a great case anymore because you have a hunch that maybe they're going to harm you again in the future. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're being proactive. And if something happens, you should, at the minimum, get a free consultation with an attorney, and they can help evaluate your case and let you know if it's worth pursuing or not.
All right, perfect. So, the Lawyer Referral and Information Service does have a civil restraining order panel that we have attorneys that do take these kind of cases and can assist you, in which you're part of. And you do get a free up to 30-minute consultation where you can talk to an attorney and they can let you know how they can help you and, what it would cost and that kind of thing. So, I think that's good information instead of just, searching on the internet and like, oh my God, I hope somebody handles this. You want to make sure you have someone that's experienced and knows what they're doing in this instance, correct?
Yeah, the free consultation it's a great tool. It's not going to cost the business owner any money, and they may not realize, it's good to get an opinion from an attorney who can give them some feedback on their situation and really see if it meets the criteria. And if it doesn't, maybe the attorney can recommend another avenue or a suggestion that could help. But if you have this resource available for a free consultation, it's definitely the way to go because we're talking about protecting your livelihood as well as protecting yourself and your business and your employees. So it is a very serious matter, and to have this resource available business owners should take advantage of it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all this great information. Liz, you want to take us out?
Yeah, so just to back up what Michelle said, the lawyer referral service is open Monday through Friday, and Mr. Stuart Mellman is part of our lawyer referral service. So anyone out there needing legal assistance, you can always call us. There's no charge for the referral, and you get a 30-minute consultation with the attorney to discuss your issue and see how and if they can assist you. Thank you so much again, Mr. Mellman, for doing this for us. We really appreciate it.
And I want to add one more thing on there, Liz. We also now have 24/7 referrals where you can go on our website and get a referral 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't have to call us. This is something that we've added new this year. And so you can get a referral at any time of day, at 4 o'clock in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever you want one, you can get a referral.
Yes, good to
Yeah.
mention.
Thank you so much for having me and talking about the restraining orders. And again, hopefully business owners don't find themselves too often in a situation where they need a restraining order, but if they do, they have this resource available for them, and I would recommend that.
Awesome.
Thank you.